Greetings, family. Welcome, welcome. As many of you may know by now, my name is Duke, health educator and coordinator for Black Men's Exchange National. I'm joined here with my partner and friend, Kashama Sankofa. And the last time we were here with you all was October 2nd, and we were discussing Queen Sugar, the bitter relationship between Black people and diabetes. And we were joined by a political advocate and healthcare justice specialist, Lisa Davis. That was a powerful conversation over on October 2nd. Just going through, we've reviewed and talked to a lot of the people through the comment section, but we want to highlight one brother who asked, his name is Isaiah H. Polnitz, forgive me if I mispronounced that. He said, "Hey, can I come on sometime?" And the answer to that is always absolutely. We welcome anyone to come in and join us on these discussions. At some point during the live stream, we always open up and give the link to join us over here on this side, and you can expect to see that in the comment sections. But as of now, we have an interesting topic for you all today: Black COVID-19 breakthroughs. I believe we have a couple of things that we want to roll clip with, but Kashama, did you have something before we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not really, just some house cleaning. Before we go ahead and get to the current events section of the show, I want to encourage everybody to catch us on YouTube as well as Facebook. Catch us on Facebook at Black Men's Exchange National HQ. On Facebook, we're being live streamed right now. Also, like the page, like the video, and don't forget to share with your friends and family online as well. And with that being said, yeah, let's go to the current events.
All right. So
All right.
I don't know exactly what you want to hit first, but I'm going to just jump in there. I have a question because this is my first time really hearing about the story. This family that this black boy saved, were they white?
I I was looking and trying to find that, and no, I was actually I just wanted to make sure that we were able to say his name because I couldn't get too many details about the actual family. They didn't give the mother's name or the family's name, who he saved, but he did save a mother and her three children, ages 1, 4, and 9. And he saved them from a burning car, which I just want to give that brother kudos. Justin Gavin, only 18 years old. He showed tremendous bravery and selflessness. And we don't get that narrative enough about our young black men. So that's one of the main reasons why that needs to be highlighted.
Okay, I can definitely agree with you that those stories aren't highlighted. It's just that I'm familiar with so many stories of black males specifically risking their lives to save Karen and Bick and everybody else, and even dying in the process sometimes, and they get while the others save. And I'm just like, you know.
Well, I mean, and the thing about it, well, he was walking down the street. So, and it says he was walking down the street unharassed. So I'm assuming he was walking in a neighborhood that was predominantly black. And so I'm just going to guess that this was, I mean, he wasn't walking out.
I can't wait to describe my day when someone asks me, how are you doing today? Unharassed.
Right, unharassed. This is
unharassed,
right?
Not yesterday.
So, yeah, let's just hope that that's the case. Doctors are questioning Trump's corona status. But wait. Before we even talk about that, though, we do have Facebook banning ads, not necessarily fake news ads or ads that are giving out, false information about vaccines, but just ads that discourage vaccines in general. From BuzzFeed, we get Facebook announced they won't accept ads that discourage vaccines. The latest example of the social giant's more aggressive approach to regulating content and ads as the U.S. election approaches and the pandemic drags on. I think that's very unfortunate because and not just about vaccines in general, but we're entering in an age where companies are racing to create a vaccine. And in that type of environment, we need to be able to critically, look at what's being pushed to us. We need to be able to speak objectively in regards to vaccines this day and age. So I do see that as a setback. What do you think?
I think it's interesting because this is a particular subject matter where you will find lots of cross suspicion and caution around this particular topic amongst various different demographics. A lot of us are just wondering, like, especially under this administration, I'm not taking no vaccine. That's just a common thing that I hear a lot. Even pro-Trump supporters are not as keen about the subject around a vaccine. And they haven't really offered, when or where they would take it under what circumstances. But the idea of being injected by this particular government, which we know is corrupt, is
concerning.
It's scary. It's concerning. Like, there's no other way to put it. Like, it's just like, I know that, the only way to actually, and it's official people, the only way to actually get through a pandemic is to have a vaccine. That is the only way that things will ever go, quote unquote, back to normal. But I'm hoping that our neighbors and other continents develop it or something.
I think I differ. I differ with that point of view as far as going back to normal. Like, we need a vaccine. I think measures can be taken. I think a vaccine is the easy way out. But however, that news as far as Facebook discouraging ads, Facebook banning ads that discourage vaccines. We also have Johnson & Johnson having to delay, their vaccine studies because of an illness that popped up in one of their patients. They're actually in the third stage of that. And we have a short video clip, if our producer Adam can run that for us real quick.
We begin this hour with the latest on the race for a vaccine for COVID-19 and a bump in the road for a major clinical trial that Ottawa hopes will eventually provide tens of millions of doses for Canadians. Johnson & Johnson has had to put its crucial late-stage testing in humans on hold, at least for now. Laura McQuillan leads off this hour. She has all the details. Laura, good morning.
Good morning, Heather. The company's not saying what kind of an unexplained illness this trial participant has. They're citing privacy as to why they can't do that, but they did issue a statement last night. They wanted to assuage people that phase 3 trials are meant to catch any kind of side effects.
Okay, so that's the official story. Courtesy of Brother Rizza Islam. I want everyone to know that clip came from Brother Rizza Islam. We do support and promote New Black Media as much as possible because this is how we are able to control our narrative and make sure that we are in control of the discussion. But what are your thoughts on that, Duke?
I don't have too many other than questioning, I guess, what everyone would be is exactly what is this illness? And is the illness a result of the vaccine that they were developing? That's another key component of question and concern. I'm looking over here at the comments here. It says Lowell said that they've been trying to develop a vaccine for HIV since the early 80s and no one has been able to. And I'm not familiar.
Read Danae Washington's comment though.
What if the zombie? Danae said, "What if the zombie apocalypse was started by the vaccine trials?" LOL. Let me tell you now, if that happens, I am so ready. I am so ready because I have been envisioning removing individuals from my life for a long time, and the zombie apocalypse is the perfect way to do that.
Oh no. Well, speaking of zombies, no, I'm not gonna call Trump.
Do y'all know? First of all, I just want to take this moment because I always get a good laugh and joke about this. Y'all, if anyone watches The Walking Dead, there's this moment where a little racist white girl is getting ready to kill a toddler, a baby, in the zombie apocalypse because the zombies were coming and the baby was making too much noise. And everyone who I know watching the show is like, "Oh my God, she's getting ready to do that," and I'm like, Yes, because it's a zombie apocalypse and the zombies are and they're making too much noise.
So remind me not to fight the zombie apocalypse alongside you.
Don't make no noise, all right?
Remind me to have my own band of riders.
We wouldn't be in this if people didn't make certain decisions, okay? If we weren't eating bats and all that other mess, we'd be fine.
Well, so in other news, doctors are questioning Trump's recovery. We know he tested positive. Well, they say he tested positive, went into the hospital 3 days later, and he had risen and say that he was Corona free. In fact, he was down in my hometown of Sanford, Florida, at one of the super spreader events, offering to kiss people. I mean, everybody, like hide your children, hide your wife. He was talking about kissing everybody just to show that he's had it, and now he's immune, so to speak.
Recently tested negative.
And there's no danger.
I mean, I guess the first thing that I want to do is anyone that was at his, promoting for his campaign with the hat saying, you can grab my word, and wearing those hats. I think they should be the first ones in line to kiss Donald Trump and congratulate him for his recent accomplishments of no longer having this disease, apparently. But we also said that scientists are actually questioning Trump's alleged negative test results.
Yeah, so that's crazy. And he's talking about kissing people. We got that clip though, don't we, Adam? So people don't think we're lying because they quick to. You have proof of that? Roll the clip, Adam. Drop the receipt.
And we got to remember, I said it right at the beginning. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. Can't. The cure cannot be worse. But if you don't feel good about it, if you want to stay. Relax, stay. But if you want to get out there, get out. One thing with me, the nice part, I went through it. Now they say I'm immune. I feel so powerful. I'll walk into that audience. I'll walk in there. I'll kiss everyone in that audience. I'll kiss the guys and the beautiful women and everybody. I'll just give you a big fat kiss. No, but there is something nice. I don't have to be locked up in my basement, and I wouldn't allow that to happen anyway. I wouldn't allow it to happen. When you're the president, you can't bother with the world. You got to get out, and it's risky. It's risky, but you got to get out. But it does give you a good feeling when you can beat something, and now they say you're immune. I don't know for how long. Some people say for life. Some people say for 4 months. I mean, every time I think about it, every time I hear them, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter because they want it to be as bad as possible.
I just want to say, Kashama, you have traumatized me because that is probably the longest I have listened to Trump in 2020, and that was a lot. But, I'm looking at the audience. I'm like, you remember Vanilla Bean ice cream? Like in how it has like the black specks that you can really see, and so I see the black specks in the audience, and one of them that stand at the very moment he talked about running into the audience and kissing people, and I'm like, okay, at first in line, we see you.
Yeah, I mean, this is so. I think this is very relevant to us as Black people. No, we're not the main ones supporting Trump. No, we're not out at the rallies, at the super spreader events. But this is the atmosphere that we're living in. As far as one, that the jury is still out whether you are immune from COVID after you contract it. That is not a proven fact that you're immune after contracting it.
Yeah. In fact, I don't think we had enough time actually to put this into our news cycle, but I believe this was a recent news story from this week. An individual who had COVID, then tested negative for no longer having it, recontracted the virus, and then died of it. And that was one of the first known cases in America specifically of someone dying after getting the virus again. So this is still something that we need to be ongoing and talking about and making sure that we are keeping ourselves safe from.
Right, and it should also show us as a people like we are really going to have to take our own safety and destiny into our own hands. Seriously, because you see, if you could watch some of the videos from those rallies, hardly anybody's wearing a mask. You know what I'm saying? Trevor Noah interviewed this one dude at a rally, and he was like, said, "Do you believe? Are you pro-choice?" No, he said, "Are you pro-life?" And he was like, "Absolutely." He said, I believe everybody deserves a chance to live. He said, well, why aren't you wearing a mask? He's like, I think it's a personal choice. So this is what we're dealing with. Other people are not going to take your safety, you know what I'm saying, to be the priority that you should take it. That's what I take away from this. Nothing political.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've just about covered that particular portion of this topic. So we're talking about breakthroughs today. So what's on the news here? What happened? What do we know?
Black Rona break. No, I'm just kidding. Black COVID-19 breakthroughs, guys. I know us as a people, we tend to give things nicknames and stuff. But first of all, we're going to be operating from the data that we get from this amazing project, organization, whatever you want to call it, called Color of Corona. They're also on Facebook. You can Google Color of Corona, and they offer up-to-date statistics on the racial data surrounding the pandemic. And the data that we received is as recent as September 15th. But from what I was looking between planning the show and doing the show, I've seen that they've actually come out with some more recent data. However, speaking of Color of Corona, by tracking the racial data, they've shown how Black people are consistently the highest amount of deaths. We represent the highest amount of deaths out of COVID patients. Now, so the reason I bring them up is because there was also a study that was just recently done, and I'm pulling it up right now, actually. So this comes from the National Institute of Health, whereas they're talking about the genetic susceptibility for COVID-19 associated sudden cardiac death in African Americans. All right. Basically, this article is talking about the propensity for having a cardiac arrest in Black patients with COVID. And what they found is that there are actually 2 genetic sequences. And to speak in, I won't even give you the name of them because it's a bunch of numbers and letters that represent these genetic sequences. And these genetic sequences are unique, first of all, to people of sub-Saharan African descent. And they have found that they have a reaction to long QTC drugs, specifically hydrochloroquine. So basically hydrochloroquine and the drugs in that family are causing Black people to have cardiac arrest.
So anyone who's been following along with the channel for some time, we've actually had a discussion very similar to this with Cynthia McKinney, former senator, and she brought up how there has been evidence and research, specifically over in Asian social sciences, that study how diseases have a particular predetermined code within them that allows them to infect certain demographics of people much more likely than they do certain other subgroups. And so they were studying COVID-19 and recognizing that there's genetic phenotypes, if you will. And you can find this particular information from Cynthia McKinney all through, if you just scroll throughout our channel, you'll find the exact one. I forget the name of the video at this exact moment, where Cynthia McKinney talked about this. But now that we know this disease, and you're quoting again who?
This is the National Institute of Health talking about the family of drugs that hydrochloroquine is part of.
Mm-hmm. And now that we know that this disease is now predetermined to affect certain demographics, particularly us, at much higher rates than other people, this means, I mean, like it's a really scary thing, because for me, I'm thinking genetic warfare just immediately. Like this is extreme levels of corruption in power. So
well, now, Duke, let's be clear though, because what this article is actually saying, this article is actually talking about the drugs itself that are being used to treat COVID patients, being Black people having a harsh reaction to that drug, including cardiac and vascular issues. So, but Dr. McKinney was getting into some very important information in regards to, you know, the genetics of the virus and of the disease, and how she was talking about the actual origins of it and what it could possibly have been, you know, created for. But I think she's probably the best person to explain that. However, I do want to definitely stick to the idea of, you know, we need to get in charge of how we treat Black bodies or the treatments that are given to Black people, and not to just keep acting like, you know, this one glove fits all. Even when the vaccine people were doing these trials, they kept saying we need more Black people.
That is definitely true. It's definitely something that it was a really interesting thing that happened over in the media space too, because this is on record when they talked about who should have the vaccines first, who should be in test shots. It was like, well, let's do it in Africa first, even though Africa had the least amount of contractions for this particular virus at the time. They're just like, let's test there first. And it's like, no, let's test Italy. Let's test demographics that are severely impacted by this particular disease. The comment from Bongani said that they read an article suggesting that the next wave of the virus will be a coronavirus with upper respiratory modes of transmission with symptoms of HIV. Wow. So
something similar about the link to HIV, but Bongani brother, can you possibly find that and put the link in the comments so that the rest of us can educate ourselves too? We appreciate that first and foremost.
Wow. I mean, so that kind of distracted me just a little bit. So what's interesting is that on the topic of heart disease, I know that this is an upcoming topic for us at some point, but if we are already predetermined to have the highest numbers of victimization among the lines of heart disease, I believe the numbers for Black women around 56, Black men is tailoring around 47%. I'm sorry, Black women should be 53.
Yeah,
Black men should be Black women should be
Black men higher than Black women with heart disease?
Not at this time, no. So Black men are at 47%, as by the recent studies by CDC. So with that already in terms, before we even talk about taking a quote unquote medicine or vaccine, we're already suffering at the highest rate of heart disease. And so we have to be extra careful about what we're injecting into our bodies. Hence, again, the conversation about even if there is a national vaccine or even quote unquote international, there has to be discussion about how does this affect certain demographics of people, because we keep ignoring how medicine does solve some people's body systems and issues, but does not solve for the whole. And because we are quote unquote not the majority, certain deaths are seen as okay or inadmissible.
Or what happened in the case of Black people, Black people got shamed a lot especially during the early parts of this pandemic. We kept hearing about how we got to do better. Even the Surgeon General got up there, and the big emphasis was on Black people and our behaviors, or our misbehavior rather, and how much we're drinking and smoking and all this stuff. Like, other groups aren't doing this. And so we go on further to learn that, you know, now it's showing that maybe Europeans and Asians are actually at a higher risk of having more severe forms of COVID due to having an average of 4% Neanderthal DNA.
And this is quoting from.
Okay, so this is from, you can find this on Discovery Health. This is like widely known as far as the 4% DNA. I have a First Post Health article that can also be found on other articles as well, that says the potentially dangerous string of DNA is not evenly distributed today across the globe. Some 16% of Europeans, Okay, so let's go to it. COVID-19 patients with a snippet of DNA, they're going to say a snippet. First of all, 4% is not a snippet when it comes to genes and DNA. 4% of your DNA is a large chunk of your DNA. The difference between like whole groups of people can be, you know, like as small as 0.2%. So 4% is a large amount. But it goes to say with snippet of Neanderthal DNA that crossed into human genomes some 60,000 years ago run a higher risk of severe complications from the disease, researchers have reported. Now, this research comes from, let's see where this research was. Okay, so I'm not finding the exact institution that the research comes from or who this article would have cited as well, but this isn't the only source for it. You can easily find it online. We're just kind of, giving you a direction, but this paints a picture that we shouldn't be dying from this disease the way we are. A lot of things are being ignored, such as the medications we're being given, as well as the treatment we receive in the hospitals. Color of Corona does a great job with outlining that, and we're going to go into some of those stories a little later in the show. But also, we're not even talking about the prison population and that being disproportionate, Black people, Black men especially, and they are a big portion of the cases and the deaths that are happening as well.
I think what's interesting to me is that I don't even know we're prepared for this, but I'm ready. I'm more so ready to get into the conversation around solutions, because a topic like this is so daunting that individuals can, really feel disempowered to actually, do what is necessary in order to keep themselves safe during this particular time. But however, there are methods. There are things that we can do, and there's practical things that we've already learned towards the beginning of this particular pandemic. And as more time has gone by, I think that the general populace is under this sense of attrition, like where they're so tired of being quote unquote locked up during this time, that they are starting to do more social engagements that are more so putting them at risk for getting the virus in the first place. So we know on various different medicine and disease-related things, the best mitigation is prevention. The best treatment is prevention. And we have to be extra cautious when it comes
to... not to cut you off, but I want to add to that, because prevention is like the third step. It's like the first steps are caring about ourselves and loving ourselves enough as a people. You know what I'm saying? And having the affirmation to be active in controlling our health and wellness. But like you said, prevention is key in my book.
Mm-hmm. So, breakthroughs. Anyone? Also, I want to let people know, if you would like to join in on this particular discussion, the comment will be dropped very, very soon from our producer for you to join in and talk to us about this particular topic. We will be moving along, so after you say what you need to say, we will have to guide you and maybe ask you to drop some jewels and move, so that way we can keep this show going, keep our producer in line. Have any other facts for us, Kashan?
Well, those are the breakthroughs. I think the breakthroughs that we should really be considering is the fact that we can survive this as a people. You know what I'm saying? But it's going to take. First of all, on the last show where we were talking about Queen Sugar and the bitter relationship between Black people and diabetes, or the relationship between diabetes and Black people, Lisa Davis and we started talking about health. And, we didn't include these articles and stuff in this show, but consistently articles and research is coming out about the immune system, keeping your immune system in top shape. We have to learn more about nutrition and wellness and how to keep our bodies in at its optimal, peak position in order to fight off these things. And in addition to knowing what to do once you do get sick. You know what I'm saying? First of all, the city of New York, when they started running out of all that chemical medication, they started doing intravenous vitamin C.
Mm-hmm. Comment from Lowell said, which vaccine would we all trust? The ones from the US, from China, Russia, Cuba, I have an answer, but I'm curious what you would say.
Me?
Yeah. Which vaccine would you trust?
I trust I trust the vaccines that God put on this green earth. Black seed oil, oregano oil. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not even with that. And I practice what I preach. I feed my whole family them herbs. And you know, so that's how we get down. I'm all about controlling my life, not placing my life in the hands of Russia, China, or none of them.
Well, I know for me, I'm a very simple and I think practical person. And with that being said, no, not U.S. developed vaccine. But in my experience, usually places where the particular pandemic or the virus has been the longest is where scientists have been able to study it longer and to deal with the various outcomes. Now, I don't know, I haven't checked the international statistics on COVID in quite some time, but what I do know is that China was able to bring its particular pandemic under control. They had a second outbreak, but then they brought that under control as well. And when we look at the international conversation around COVID, America is the laughingstock right now. America is considered the least progressive in terms of actually dealing with this pandemic, and our numbers are consistently going up while others happen to be tampering off and decreasing even. So it's definitely something to consider when we're looking at the international study of medicine compared to what's going over here in America.
Also, look at sub-Saharan Africa, and look at their numbers. That gives us a clue to, you know, like whether we are actually genetically susceptible to this disease or not, and what can be done. I think anytime when it's a more homogenous Black environment, meaning the healthcare is Black, you know what I'm saying? The government is basically Black. Yeah, whatever you want to say is going on, not want to say, whatever's going on between African countries and European governments and blah, blah, for the most part, you know, it's neocolonialism, but it's still Black people running things. Whenever you don't have a white population to treat better, you get the more accurate picture of Black people and disease. Same thing with HIV and in the country of Uganda. Uganda had one of the most, if not the most, successful HIV prevention program and brought their numbers down in record time because they were practicing a model of cultural affirmation. It was nothing but them around to affirm each other and to get each other to care about each other and themselves. So I think that's something to look at too. We should always look to our motherland, our continent, to get an accurate picture of things. I'm trying to find these stories, Duke. I had them up here, but these stories about Black people from ages like from brothers in their 50s to a little girl aged 9 years old who were turned away from hospitals after having like symptoms and everything. Some of them had even tested positive already and were sent home and died like either the next day or the next week. And I'm trying to find those numbers. Color of Corona has those numbers, and but they have several pages up.
So even in the midst of this pandemic, Black people are still dealing with previous pandemics, previous issues of racism in this country that severely impacts our ability to actually take care of ourselves, particularly in the lines of American medicine and treatment. But as stated before, we can prevent this particular thing from impacting our communities as much by doing key things of social distancing. So one thing practical things I want to talk about is that some things that my friends have been doing that was new to me was even I have a friend who recently moved to Ohio at this point, and for her particular housewarming gift, she decided to do a joint housewarming through Zoom. Where all of their friends who actually just recently moved, they all planned to do a housewarming through Zoom and send in the Amazon gift link so you can all buy things and have it mailed and shipped to the house. But there's different ways and different things that we can do in our community to really show that we are taking care of each other and loving on each other. And I'm not too sure about the statistics on masks at this point. Everyone has their own theories and studies about masks. And I do know that some of the recent scientists is asking is whether or not the mask even work, because we're not, some of the scientists are not entirely sure exactly how COVID-19 pathogens actually infect people. Sometimes it's airborne, sometimes it's not. They keep going back and forth with that particular assessment.
Well, it's always airborne. The debate, well, you could call it a debate because they keep going back and forth, like you said. The debate is whether it can survive in an aerosol form, meaning when you sneeze, and though that's like an aerosol, tiny droplets or whatever. So those tiny aerosol droplets can actually stay suspended in the air for a certain amount of time, as opposed to just like a regular cough or whatever, or the larger droplets which fall to the ground right away. Those aerosol droplets stay in the air, and a person could sneeze and walk away, and you walk through the area where they sneeze at, and the aerosol droplets are carrying the virus. I'm not quite sure that it passes that way, because I think it would have been a lot more contagious. Like literally, like, you know what I'm saying? I think it would have been much worse than what it actually is. However, I do think that that is real. Like people still saying it ain't real, and no, it's real. I see Bunjani, brother says, let me repeat, when our melanin is performing optimally, we cannot get sick. I'm under that school of thought as well. When your body, which is your melanin is all over your body, is that also within your body as well. And there's a lot that's still not even understood, or that scientists have tapped into when it comes to our melanin. However, I'm going to say when our bodies are at its optimal, I'm not with it. I'm not with it. I got like sick. The last time I got sick was December of last year. And a lot of people are saying that was the COVID. That was the first wave. People just didn't know it. I was sick for like 2 days, and I'm talking about like real bad, like laying down sick. Right. And on the third day, like Jesus, I rose because my body is functioning. I'm eating right. I ain't obeying Dr. Sebi perfectly, but we got to get into it.
So I think even with what Bongani dropped and what you just mentioned, I think it all does go back to that sense of really using cultural affirmation and critical thinking to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and caring about taking care of ourselves in the first place, right? And it's not just, and I want to add that it's not just our melanin that is operating optimally, but it's also our mental, right? Like, because when you're mentally operating in the way that you need to, you're going to take certain precautions and certain measurements to make sure you are well and healthy. With that in mind, I think about during this pandemic, what this pandemic has forced me to realize is how often I happen to touch something and then touch my face immediately afterwards, right? And that is something that I've been dealing with and thinking about how often I'm running into contact with these various types of different germs, and not realizing that right after I touch something, I probably don't need to scratch my face or scratch my eye right afterwards. And that's just a general thing, and even before COVID, that we can be thinking about how often we're doing certain things. Another study that shows, and this is just one across the national statistics as well, individuals aren't washing their hands. And not only are they not washing their hands, they're not washing their hands correctly. Now, I always had this issue. Now, this is a true statement that I've been saying for years now. I said that we live in a place where we can't get everyone to agree that you need to wash your hands after you use the restroom. So I know we're not going to agree on politics. Like, we can't get that basic down, and we can't get the basic idea that after you use the urinal, I need you to wash your hands.
I need some sisters to chime in on this too, because we only know the male perspective on this. I'm gonna be real with y'all. A lot of brothers gonna be washing their hands coming out that bathroom.
And so I know if we can't get that agreement, and I think that's a simple agreement, Kashama. Like, I don't think we asking for much, but if we can't get that down understanding together, then I know we're not going to make it where we need to go.
Hey, Adam just told me Bon Johnny is in waiting in the room to come on. I'm waiting to hear from
Absolutely.
the brother.
I'm welcoming in. So with that in mind, I just want to add before we finish with that also when you're washing hands, you'd be surprised how many people aren't doing it correctly. Like they showed like the black light and how people just keep using their thumbs when they happen to be washing their hands. It's just like let's do the whole hand, people. What's going on, Bongani?
You should have been came on, bro.
Hello, brothers. I'm sorry. I'll be honest. I am generally a little bit shy, and this world of YouTubes and things and videos is a little bit new to me. So I with apology.
Welcome in.
I appreciate that. I'm happy to. I'm sorry. I'm also driving, and I have difficulty multitasking sometimes. But I'm so happy to be here. I want you to know that I appreciate you, brothers. I think you're both very intelligent and well-informed, and I really do appreciate brothers and sisters that research and, spread that good word. Let me first start by giving you guys a little bit of background on melanin, though, because what has happened through our, because of systemic racism, we have to understand that at all angles of American industry and schools, they do not want us to know who we are, our potential, our strengths, none of this, including the significance of melanin. So when I was in not medical school, but anatomy class, we learned that melanin was a skin pigmentation. And that was it, you know what I mean? And we're like, oh, hey, rock on there. But in reality, melanin is to life as life itself. That is to say, without melanin, there would be no life, brothers. When I tell you that, go ahead, please research it. I encourage that. Definitely. Right. Carbon is the molecule that makes up. Exactly, brother. Exactly. Understand the significance of melanin. So, and that's what white people do, which is why on so many different angles, they have to attack us. Because although it would appear as though black folks are a bit more susceptible to the virus, it's not because we are more susceptible to illness. It's because we are literally kept sick. From the mental stress that we go through. We are literally seeing our brothers and sisters murked in the street. That comes at a cost, my friends. That comes at a cost. Even though we have learned how to cope, it still is in our subconscious. We watched our brother get murdered. Oh my God, that could have been us. You know what I mean? Like, these are... What they do is disgusting. We don't get good medical care. What medical care is available, the medicines, they're all fake. You know what I mean? So that's what I was saying earlier. A lot of these Harvard doctors, as they're graduating, they go over to Africa. They get plant specimens, they get herb specimens, they learn how to use them, they learn their purposes and designations. They come back here, they turn them artificial. And then they mass produce them, and then they feed them to us like guinea pigs.
Well, think about Henrietta Lacks in Baltimore.
Exactly.
Her cells were made. Yeah, her cells is created.
Right. Without Henrietta Flack, there wouldn't have been vaccines. Now they don't want to tell you that. You know what I'm saying? But that female was one of the most important, and they are just now giving her family money. Are you kidding?
Oh yeah, they just giving her family money. So I know
that happened around. I think around a year or two ago. But like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that they just happened to. I think they just happened to get Henrietta Lacks. She just happened to be the one. But I think there are lots of black women, especially, walking around with those types of genetic, sequences, who have a very old genetic sequence that they can tap into and do these things with. And honestly, like you say, they kept trying to push black people for these studies, these vaccine studies. We need more blacks. We need more blacks. And they kept acting like, I isn't hitting Africa. We need to study this. You already know the deal.
Right.
So black people that step into our full glory. I think that's the thing. We have to start affirming ourselves, and self-determination, I think, is the cure.
Well, I agree with that.
that you
Self-love
brought up.
definitely is important.
I'm,
What's that?
I'm really glad that you brought up the dynamic of how racism and systematic oppression impacts the actual immune system of Black people, because this is an ongoing study, and these are things that even Dr. Joy DeGruy has talked about almost
I
religiously
love
at this
her.
point.
Right.
And she had revealed she was the first to reveal to me before I started looking into others that the racism that we experience in this country actually significantly
Could I get a
impacts
pack of the mango?
physically tangible evidence of how we are dealing. Thank you so much, Bongani. We're gonna thank you so much. Please join us
You're
in the
welcome,
comments.
brothers. All
Mhm.
right. Y'all be well. Bye
All
bye.
right. But with that reveal about how these things impact our natural day to day. There's been studies that talk about how white people legitimately sleep better in this society than Black people, right? Like this was a study that I remember reading about when I was still in high school. That these things actually impact the natural everyday livelihood of Black people. And there's when we're talking about reparations, we have to bring that element into the room. That there's a current condition that Black people are in as a result of the various traumas that we have faced in this particular country. So I'm really glad Bogani brought that to the table.
We have songs in church like "Trouble in My Way."
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have to cry sometimes. I lay awake at night. Like all of that. Excuse me. All of that stuff is bringing down the immune system.
Mm-hmm.
In case we don't know, I'm not talking about the song itself.
Mm-hmm.
the song might be a little cathartic to sing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the lifestyle.
I'm a poke at this now. You're gonna be mad at me, Kashama. But there's things that we do on top of all of that that messes us up, like smoking. And so
this is very true. Smoking cigarettes.
So we gotta make sure that we are really taking care of ourselves here. Like the levels of callousness that we have around our health when it comes to things like that. When we realize all the things that we're facing, we're just inviting in more poison and more toxins. Of course, we are suffering. Of course, but I'm really happy about.
I'm out of coffee too.
What I'm really happy about is I have a friend who was diagnosed with cancer many years ago at this point. And to the point that her doctors told her that she only had so long to live. This is a legit story. No facts here. I can link y'all to this story later with her wonderful business later on. But she was told that she had only so long to live and that she would never have kids. Okay. And modern medicine just told her that was it. Like there's not much we can do for you, friend. And so she did her own research and started doing her own thing. And she did two things. She started drinking herbal teas with alkaline water, and that was it. And now in 2020, she is still here, looking good, 2 children, and cancer is completely in remission. And so there's many stories like this across our diaspora of individuals recovering using these herbal medicines and herbal cures, but we don't treat it as if it's a legit thing because it comes from a Black place. And that's something else that we really have to talk about and really start diagnosing that these medicines that have been used for centuries before the invasive of quote unquote modern white aesthetic medicine, which is based off of herbs from Africa and various different natural homegrown remedies like the health benefits of pomegranate, for instance, and the things that we don't process and think about on a daily basis. When people have been taking these medicines and using them in their communities for many, many years and recovering. And when we say that individuals recover from those medicines in 2020, in a quote unquote first world country, we treat them like it's false, like it's fake, like this is not a real medicine. And that's something else that we have to process and really start decolonizing how we think about medicine and well-being and health. And it's something I've always said, we have to stop going to white people as the limit test on how to treat other people as a human being, because these people have absolutely no credibility. And when I'm talking about Black health, I don't think these people have much credibility.
A lot of the fields were founded on experimenting on Black people and torturing Black people for one thing. Gynecology, you know what I'm saying? That was founded on the torture of Black people. I believe dentistry as well. You know, we know the story about George Washington teeth being made out of wood when in fact it was made from black slaves. You know what I'm saying? Like,
how did that even become part of, like, I don't even want to go like
you're right, because it don't even make sense. But when and like I'm so glad you said that. I keep hammering affirmation, affirming ourselves, because that is the key. Like Dr. Sebi, out of all the things that he accomplished, right? Nobody could prove this man wasn't doing what he was doing. I'm talking about in courts and scientists in a lab or wherever, right? But yet, I highlighted when Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett, the black woman who the media was propping up as being on the research team for finding a vaccine to the coronavirus, she got on Twitter and started dumping on Dr. Sebi, acting like he was some quack job when he had more knowledge of health in his pinky than she did in her entire little bird brain. You know, but we allow our icons and the people who have forged, you know, black medicine to new levels and to new heights. We allow them to be degraded, and therefore we can't elevate ourselves when it comes to the field of natural medicine and healing black bodies, because we're constantly looking at it as something that's lower, that's less than. And when scientists, pharmaceuticals, when they discover a plant or a super herb somewhere in the rainforest, right, the first thing they do, they don't try to find a way to sustainably grow it in mass, right, so that people can make tea out of it. First thing they do is to synthesize it and upcharge.
And we gotta be clear about what the word synthesize means. It means to create a false duplicate, like to create something that's similar to it and not the actual product. And that's something that we have to be very, very careful about. There's a reason why. Okay, there's a reason why every few years we hear about an article saying, "Did you take this particular medicine? You may be entitled to compensation." Like, there is a reason behind this. I'm reminded again of Dr. Joy DeGruy, because I remember in one of her talks how they were debating the planet, debating Pluto, whether or not it was a planet or not. And so at the time of this particular discussion, Dr. Joy DeGruy said that scientists were saying that, you know, Pluto isn't a planet anymore, blah, blah, blah. But the way that science was talking about, they didn't say that science was wrong. They said that there was new developments. And when it comes to our medicine, they're not saying that the medicine is wrong. They're saying there's new developments. And the reality is that the way that we talk about these things happens to change our perception of how we are dealing with white medicine. Recognize that if you are taking a medicine and it is not helping you, then that medicine failed you. That medicine from that particular institution, this White Health Organization, blah, 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 it failed. Okay, it wasn't the right medicine for you.
We might get some pushback on that. And I mean, I don't care, because I agree with you. But I'm just gonna let you know that modern medicine isn't built on that narrative, on that ideology. That, you know, there's the belief that something can help your heart but hurt your liver. There's the belief that, I can take this for my eyesight. But I might have diarrhea for 3 days straight. You know, there's the idea that this is acceptable. So when we see these commercials and they say Zublanka, right? That's the new medicine, Zublanka. they had these weird names, right? Zublanka. And then when they tell you about Zublanka, but right at the end of the commercial, medicine may cause bleeding out of the urethra, you know, and it's like, ask your doctor. Whoa. Should my doctor already know what to do? What I got to ask him for? You go to a drug dealer and ask him, hey, where's the new stuff? You don't go to your doctor and ask that.
So I'm reminded of, I was looking up just now, because something else, the way that modern medicine plays the tricks on us is that they'll use these really complicated terms for things that we already know about, right? And we talked about this before in quote unquote education oppression, how people will try to use bigger words when people say Black people say big as block, and then another person will come in, you mean gargantuan? And it means the same thing, but there's a language difference there, right? But in medicine, like this is a key thing in medicine, even when you're going to go visit a doctor. I can't remember the exact word right now, but I remember sharing a story about it. But here's one right here. Even something as simple as the common cold, right? In medicine, they refer to this as coryza, CorYza. I ain't never heard of that a day in my life. However, when you are going to the doctor and they're doing these upcharges and they're discussing with their clientele about what is the best way to treat you, they'll sometimes use and interchange these particular medical terms that confuse and disorient patients that are coming in there to get certain treatments.
Well, I mean, to bring it back to the Black COVID breakthroughs, that the National Institute of Health article, Duke, I'm in the habit of multitasking, right? And I'm a real good reader. So I'm used to being able to scan one thing in the phone, on Facebook on one hand, got YouTube on the laptop, and I'm reading the article with the other. I had to sit everything down and say, hold on, let me read this again. Those words are like this big, all to explain you got bad blood. No, not you. But all to explain that, there's a genetic sequence in Black people that's interacting with hydrochloroquine and the drugs that are in that family, and it's mucking us up. Like it said, all of those things give me the genetic sequence SR12780 that's in Black people. So that is a barrier in a lot of cases. It's not that Black people are ignorant. I'm far from ignorant, but it's a barrier. Because many times we don't want to be took back to school. We got mistreated in school, just like we get mistreated in these hospitals. So when you start throwing words that I got to go in and study and get definitions for, that becomes an obstacle and a barrier to knowledge as well. So, I mean, I think we as Black people, the solutions are we're going to have to start taking things into our own hands. We see where we at. We see what
Long story short, and again, it's very simple. And it's a daunting task, but the cures are very simple. And what I mean by that is it is in the diet, and we know what we should be eating and what we should not be eating. I promise you, this is no lie, y'all. I realized 1 year that I had actually went about a year with consuming almost no fruit, absolutely no fruit. Like it was just wasn't part of my day to day. Like I was eating sandwiches consistently. I was eating ramen. I was eating, sometimes I had vegetables. Okay. But like fruit just was not part of my meal plans. So much so that the next year when I had bit into the fruit, I was like, oh, now I have fruit juice, which ain't good for you. But like fruit wasn't part of my diet. And so there's things that we can be doing, y'all, that really does take care of our bodies in a holistic sense.
And you don't have to be perfect either, Duke. I'm sure you remember plenty of days I used to come in the office with a couple pieces of fried chicken. But guess what I have on the side? An avocado, a plum.
If you can put the avocado on it, you're trying to be fancy.
I'm gonna balance things out. You know what I'm saying? And and even when I'm with my friends, they already know what the deal is. Like we riding around and we getting hungry. I'm gonna be like, hey, don't stop the McDonald's, stop the Walmart. Let me go pick up some produce. It adds up to the same price. You know what I'm saying?
Go to the market, buy some kale, y'all. Kale is so good, and you can put it on almost anything. All right, I'll be putting it in my unhealthy stuff. Kale is really, really good, y'all. If you can miss out on, if you're debating between spinach and kale. So
we're actually gonna wrap up, Duke.
Absolutely. So reminder to everyone, again, if you want to join in these future discussions, please join the links when we send them out. In addition, I do know that our next topic, and we haven't come up with the title quite yet, I don't believe, but we will be discussing heart disease in our communities. And I actually written a new poem about this particular topic because it's actually something very near and dear to me. So if you have any stories about heart disease or some things that you know that can actually help limit how heart disease is impacting our communities, please join in for that. But with that being said, I'm Duke. And this is Kashama Sankofa, and
Peace,
we are
family.
out.